What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be installing a set of Boost Auto M2 LumaSteps on my wife's 2021 Ram 1500. So without further ado, let's jump in and let's get it done. Okay, so as you see here, this is a 2021 Ram 1500. Now this truck did come with factory OEM running boards, which I've already taken off. It's these ones right here, these stationary OEM running boards there. My wife really wasn't a big fan of them, so we took those off. We did put a 3-2 leveling kit on this truck, so we raised the front 3 inches and 2 inches in the back, and we are going to be adding some larger tires to this truck in the near future. But we wanted to get a set of power running boards on the side over here, but I wanted something with some illumination features, which most steps out there don't really have. And what I mean by that is I wanted to integrate my running lights and my turn signals into the actual power step itself. And one of the best companies that makes such a step is Boost Auto. These right here are the M2 LumaSteps. In the long box here, you're gonna have obviously your steps and probably your wire harnesses and such. And then in the big box over here, you're going to have your 2 front motors and your 2 back brackets. So let's go ahead and unbox these and let's get this install going. Okay, so we have everything unboxed. In the big box, like I mentioned before, you're going to have all of your motors and brackets, and they are all labeled. So DF for driver front, and this one's just labeled rear for the rear bracket, PF for passenger front, and then rear bracket over there. So your motors are only on the front brackets here. The back brackets are non-motorized. You're also going to get your main wiring harness that gives power to the motors. You have your power module here. You have some hardware down in here, and then you have your mass damper relocation bracket here. These here are the M2 LumaSteps, which means they come with the LED light strip here built into the step, and we'll go over details of that here shortly. I also upgraded their pad on top to a black and gray color with the triangular pattern, and this pad on top is more of a C-deck style material that is adhered to the step just to give it a nicer look and protect your step. In the back over here, you have some of your harnesses that goes to these steps, which powers all of the light functions. Now, depending on how you configure your steps, you may or may not have all of these harnesses. So again, these steps come with multiple different lighting options, such as sequence, startup lighting. You can get switchback lighting. You can get turn signal lighting integrated into the actual steps. You could get a rock light function integrated into the steps. So there are multiple options available. So depending on how you configure your steps, your wiring harnesses might slightly differ. So the first thing we need to do is climb under the truck and find out where our step mounting studs are. Typically you're going to have 3 in the front and 3 in the back, but again, on certain trucks you might have a mass damper in the way, which we will have to relocate that before we can start installing the motors. So let me go ahead and pull the truck in just a little bit further, and then we're going to climb underneath and I'll show you the next steps. So I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, so we are on the front driver's side, and right here, like I mentioned, there are 3 studs already. Now again, if your particular truck does not have studs, let's just say they're open holes, you might have to use different brackets to tuck behind here, but in my case, the studs are already there. So this location right here is where we would mount the driver front motor. Now, right here is what I was talking about. Some trucks have it, some don't. It just depends on your specific vehicle, but on this 2021 Ram 1500, they have a mass damper installed right here, which is pretty much right in the way of where our motor needs to go. So what we will have to do is relocate this using the Boost Auto relocation bracket. So let me start working on that, and then we'll start working on the motor. So I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, so we're back, and I went ahead and unplugged the damper harness. Then I took out the 4 bolts right here that look like this, that were holding this damper up against the frame. Now what we got to do is take our damper relocation bracket. So the driver's side will be marked with an L, the passenger side will be marked with an R for right. So you're going to start with the bracket just like this, with these little humps facing up and the L facing you accordingly. So up here towards the front, you're going to take your 4 bolts to mount the bracket back up to those first 4 holes. But before you do that, you want to come over to your hardware. Now I separated it, so you have some smaller, probably 10mm bolts. Don't worry about these right now. The smaller 10mm bolts, we're going to end up using those for attaching the steps. Over here are going to be your larger 13mm bolts. So you're going to have 8 of the 13mm bolts with 8 of the 13mm nuts. So set those aside because you're going to use 4 of those right here for this bracket. These 4 over here are going to go to the other bracket on the passenger side. Then you're going to have 12 13mm lock nuts and 12 13mm flat washers, which is what we are going to use to mount the motors and brackets to the actual frame. So separate your hardware so that you know where it all goes. So what you want to do is take your bracket with those humps facing out, take 4 of your 13mm bolts and slide them in from the back so that they slide into position there. Okay. And sit that up into position. Take your factory bolts up at the front and put them in just like this. Okay. Just like that. And then go ahead and tighten those down. Okay, so once you tighten down your 4 front bolts all the way, then you could go ahead and remount your damper in this location here, just like this. Okay, and then use 4 of the 13mm nuts that came with the kit, right there. Okay, and then once you get those nuts on, go ahead and start tightening them down with your wrench. Okay, so once you have this all tightened down, then you could go ahead and just reconnect your sensor, but they'll plug in. Okay, now your 4 sensor wires are hooked back up and you're good to go there. Okay, so again, once you have your damper relocation bracket mounted and everything is done, then we can move on to mounting the front driver's side motor onto your studs over here. Now, this bracket up here that I'm touching, this really shouldn't be in the way, but if it's in the way for you, then you could just go ahead and take those couple bolts off this bracket, remove the bracket completely and take this plug and just zip tie it up top out of the way. But I'm going to try to mount the motor without moving that bracket. What you want to do is take your motor here, and this one here is labeled DF for driver front. So then what you want to do is, with your motor facing towards the back, take these 3 studs and line it up on your bracket here, just like that. So then once you line up your motor onto those 3 studs, take a 13mm flat washer and slide that on. And then, let me see if I can try to do this without blocking the camera. And then take your 13mm nut that was supplied in the kit, thread that on. Do that for all 3 posts. And then tighten it down, and then your front motor will be installed. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so once you're done tightening up your front motor 13mm lock nuts and the motor is mounted nice and secure, and you have your damper relocation bracket all mounted and everything's secure, now we can move on to the back bracket, which is super easy. It's just a manual bracket, and we're gonna come down under the back of the truck over here where we have these 3 lugs right here. Now again, there is a set of 3 bolts up here in the middle from where we had our factory OEM steps. We're not going to use those. You come all the way to the back. This is where you're going to mount the back bracket. And again, plenty of room. You don't have to relocate anything. You don't have to do anything besides stick the little bracket on here, put on your 13mm flat washers, put on your 13mm lock nuts, tighten it down, and the back is done. So let me go ahead and mount that on there real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're all done mounting the back bracket. Again, there's just those 3 bolts there. All you need to do is put your bracket over top of them, put your 3 flat washers on and your 3 lock nuts, Tighten them all down, and the back bracket is stationary now. You're good to go. Okay, so we're back. I got the front motors installed on both sides. I got the front damper relocation brackets installed on both sides. And I have the rear manual brackets installed on both sides. Now we can start working on our wiring harnesses. Now, before you start working on your wiring harnesses, you want to come in under the hood and disconnect the negative terminal on your battery. And if your truck happens to have two batteries, just disconnect the negative terminal on both of those. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is start separating all of our wiring harnesses so that we know where they're going and we don't get mixed up. So let me just try to explain a few things just so that you are aware. So let's start with this bundle of wires here. This wire harness here with the red switch. This is only for the rock light function. If you did not opt for the rock light function, then you don't have to worry about mounting these wires. But the rock light function is pretty simple and straightforward. Once you have everything hooked up, this button right here overrides all of the LumaStep functions and just turns them on to a steady light. Whether you have your lights on or off, whether your truck is running or not, whether your turn signals are activated or not. It doesn't matter. This switch here overrides all of that and turns them on. So if your truck is turned off and you just want your steps to be lit up, you can hit this rock light button and your steps will light up. But just be aware, this comes straight from the battery. So if you turn this on and forget to turn it off, it could drain your battery. So that's basically what the rock light wire is there. Now, this harness here, it has two gray harnesses, and then it comes off like a T at the very end here, like that. These are going to be your puddle light adapters. There's going to be one on each side. They are identical. So what I would recommend is come down here and drop that harness right below your motor, because that is where it's going to mount. So the same thing over here. We have the same harness sitting over here. It has the two gray harnesses and just has the two plug adapters like this. So I would take this adapter and come over here on the passenger side and set that below that motor. Just get them out of the way now so that you know where they're going. Then you're going to have two other harnesses that look like this. Two big black plugs with this little 4-pin adapter here with a little white pigtail like this. These are your headlight adapters. Now again, I went with the plug and play adapters, which are these right here in my hand. If you did not upgrade to these, you would have to use tap-in wires, which are fine. They're just a little bit more work and a little bit more tedious. But for a few dollars more, you could get the headlight plug and play adapters, which will make your life a lot easier when installing these. So I would set one over here for this headlight, and then we have one here. Same exact thing. We're going to set it over here for that headlight. Then you're going to have your main power module. So we're just going to set that over here out of the way because we're going to get to that here in a minute. Then you have your main harness right here, which is this big, thick bundle of wires. This plug right here is what plugs into this power module. And then there are going to be some power and ground wires coming off of this with some other wires, but primarily there's going to be two giant thick harnesses like this. One of them is going to be labeled passenger side motor. The other one's going to be labeled driver side motor. So basically you're going to take one of these big harnesses here, let's say the driver side motor, and you're going to run it down the back of your engine bay, down behind your fender, down underneath the truck towards that motor. The one labeled passenger side, you're going to drape that over across the back over here, drop it down over there, and then you're going to take that to the passenger side motor. And then there's going to be a couple lead wires here that look like this. Okay, there's two little lead wires. One's going to be high, one's going to be low. You're going to then have to take that wire from this area right here where your plug is, run it through your firewall, because we're going to have to get it inside the cab to connect to an input source underneath the dash here shortly. Then you're going to have this harness here for the LumaSteps. Now again, these are just for the LumaSteps, which are the lighting functions. If you did not get the LumaSteps, then you wouldn't need these. But because I have the LumaSteps, we are going to have to run these as well. So the very end of this is going to have these two black plugs. You're going to take these two black plugs with the plug labeled driver side harness, tape them together, take them down towards the driver side motor. On this harness, basically the same thing. There's going to be two black plugs over here. You're going to take these two black plugs, tape it to the harness labeled passenger side motor, drape it across the back, down over there towards that motor. Now the reason this harness stays over here is because this particular side has the fuse and the power and ground, which is going to tie over here to your battery. That's why I have it over here towards the battery side. So it's really not that hard. Once you separate your harnesses and you know where they're going, it's not that bad getting them to their location. But this harness here, we are going to have to locate the power source harness behind our headlights, which you might be able to get down in here, but let me see. It's a little bit tight, okay? So it's tight there, and it might be tighter over there. So what you might have to do is come down over here on the driver's side wheel well here, take out a couple of these bolts here, not all of them, just these first like 3 or 4 bolts on the fender lip here, just so that you can pull down your fender liner, pull it down, and then you could probably reach your hand right up there and grab that harness. Because once you unplug the power harness from your light, you're gonna plug that power harness into one of these ends here. The other end is gonna plug back into that plug underneath, and then this white pigtail right here is going to connect to this white wire off of your rocklight wires. So again, we're going to go over all of that here shortly once I get to that step in the process. But I just wanted to take a quick moment and explain some of these harnesses and wires and where they're going and how we're going to get them there. So let me start opening up all these harnesses, and then we're just going to start routing them to their locations, and then I'll come back with an update here shortly. So let me get started and I'll be right back. Okay, so just a quick update. So I went ahead and took my main harness, which is the real thick harness there, that had the thick harness labeled for the driver motor and the thick harness that's labeled passenger motor. So I have the driver motor harness coming over here, and I tied it into this skinnier harness here. But remember, the whole point is I have to get the driver side motor harness and those 2 black plugs here, and I just used some electrical tape to tape them to an antenna, and I'm just going to take this down back here somewhere like that and pull it down underneath. That way I could pull those plugs down towards that motor. And then I'm going to come over here and do the same thing on this side, where I have this harness here that is for the passenger side. It's a skinny harness that has a white plug and this plug here with the red, white, and blue wire, and that's it. There's no power and ground on this side. I took this side over here that just had the 2 black plugs like that and taped it to the gray plug harness that's labeled passenger side motor. So I have them sitting there. So that's basically what I'm starting with right now, because once we get those main harnesses down to those motors, the rest is really not that hard. So let me start working on getting both sides of the harnesses down to the motors, and then we'll go from there. So I'll be right back in a minute. Okay, so I went ahead and I pulled my harnesses down to the driver's side motor and over onto the passenger side motor, and I tried to pull as much of the harness down below as possible because I'll try to keep some of the excess zip tied underneath the truck, because there's still a lot of harnesses up here that will need to zip tie out of the way. So the next thing I want to do is start working on my headlight adapters. Now on the 1500s, it's probably easier to go under the wheel well over here. So if we come down here, I took out these 4 little bolts here, just right here along the fender lip, and I took my fender liner and kind of folded it back behind out of the way. This is the harness we need to get to, which I can't really get my camera in there, but if you see right there, up here, that's the harness that goes to your headlight. So all I did was reach my hand up there. There's a little tab right here. You press with your finger, pull the tab out. Now this is a 16-pin harness here because my wife has the LED headlights. If your truck happens to have the halogen headlights, you're gonna have a 12-pin adapter. But if we come over here, we're gonna grab this adapter right here, and then we are going to plug this harness coming from under the truck into this side over here that has the pins. And then once we get the rest of our harnesses plugged into these harnesses, then we could take the other side of this harness here and plug it right back into where it originally was. So I just wanted to show you real quick how to get access to those areas for these headlight plug and play adapters. If you come back up top here, remember on that skinnier harness that we took down to the motors, on the opposite side of that thinner wire loom, it Y's off. One side is going to have this adapter here with the red, white, and blue wire. The other is going to have your power and ground for your battery, and then it'll have this little white plug adapter. So this plug right here is what you're going to take down through here and plug in to that part right there, okay? This white pigtail here is what's going to attach to our white wire coming from the rocklight harness, but we'll get into that shortly. Now, this plug here, this white plug, is going to then connect on the passenger side. Remember, there is the thicker harness right here that was labeled passenger side motor, but then there was that thinner harness that had the two black plugs. On the opposite side of that, it's going to Y off, but on one side, it's going to have this adapter here, which again is going to plug into your headlight adapter underneath, just like we did on the driver's side. And then on the skinny harness that comes off of that Y, there's this white plug, which you are going to then drape back over and plug into this one right here. So again, not that hard. It's all plug and play. It's a lot easier if you separate everything, put it into positions of where you know it's got to go, and then just work on getting everything connected. So once you have your headlight adapters hooked up, then we can come down below and start hooking up our harnesses to the front motors. So let me go ahead and get a few of these harnesses organized, and then we'll be right back with an update. Okay, so here's where I'm at so far. So I have the one end on the right side, that white plug. I have the white plug plugged into the white plug from the other side. I just draped it across the front. Now again, I'm not permanently zip tying any of the wires out of the way just yet, because I'll figure out the best place for me to run mine when I get to that point. But I connected the two white plugs here, and then I did take the other side of that wire along the back side of the battery and dropped it down over here to where I plugged it in to my harness right here. So that red, white, and blue wire I plugged into the harness coming off my headlight three-way harness right there. I'm not finishing anything up yet because I still have to run the white wire for my rock light. So I did that on the driver's side. On the passenger side over here, again, I ran the smaller diameter wire loom all the way across the front because that's where the white plug was. The other part of that I ran down behind over here, because on this side of the fender, again, I just pulled my fender liner out of the way, reached up over there, unplugged my factory harness right here, plugged it into my three-way headlight adapter there, and then I plugged in that red, white, and blue wire to that red, white, and blue wire harness coming off of the headlight adapter, and then I still have to run my white wire for the rock light. So I got that done. Now, the next thing you want to do is come down below and start hooking up your wires for your motors. The first thing you want to do is your wires that are connected. You have two wires coming off the motor and two wires coming off the front of the step. These are just connected for shipping. They don't actually belong together. So you want to press the button and unclip them. Okay, just like that. Okay, because this front wire here with these two black plugs, that's going to plug into your actual step. So we're going to set that out of the way. These two wires back here are coming off the motor right up above. So what I would tell you to do is just tuck these wires for the front motor here, just tuck them out of the way so that you don't get confused and hook up the wrong ones. So you want these two black wires coming off of the actual motor. Then straighten out your harness, okay, and set that aside. Then take your LumaStep adapter that looks like this. It has two gray plugs and two black plugs. Remember we sat this on the floor earlier? Now we're going to use it. So coming off the actual motor here, you're going to plug in one side of that adapter, okay, just line it up till it clicks. The other side of this adapter here, you're going to plug into that wire that's labeled driver's side motor. So you're going to come down here and plug that one in till it clicks. Then the two wires coming off the back side of the motor over here, you're going to then take the harness that's coming down for your engine bay that we pulled down. Remember there's two harnesses there? What you're going to do is take the 2-pin plug from the harness that you pulled in from the engine bay. You're going to plug that into the 2-pin female adapter coming off the back of the motor. So just start with that. Plug in that 2-pin, line it up, make sure your tabs are lined up correctly, slide them in until it clicks. All right. Then coming off that motor, remember there's a 4-pin female adapter. So then take off of that three-way adapter over here that looks like this, you're going to take your 4-pin male, the red, white, and blue male that's coming off of this tail right here. You're going to slide that in till it clicks. And then all you have left is a 4-pin male and a 4-pin female. Tap those two together like that. And that's it. That's all you got to do. And again, once we get this all done, you're just going to have to take your time and kind of, fold up your wires out of the way, zip tie them up underneath the truck. So you're going to have to take some time in cleaning up your excess wire and harnesses. Again, loop them up, zip tie them together, and zip tie them underneath the truck somewhere. So being that we have our motors hooked up with our harnesses, our headlight adapters hooked up with those harnesses, we have our 2 white plugs here that connect both sides to there. So at this point now, what we could do is take our plug it into the back of our module, and then we're pretty much done with the main part of the wire harnesses. Now remember, you're going to have some power and grounds we're going to have to tie into the battery and then zip tie all your cords and stuff out of the way. But coming off that main harness where your module plugs into, there should be a loop of wire over here labeled lead wires. So what I need to do, because I also have the rocklight wires I have to run, I'm going to take my rocklight wire, okay, and unplug the actual switch, because I need to run this power and ground wire right here plus this wire right here. We're going to run it through the firewall, pop it out underneath the driver's side floor, and then we're going to have to start tapping into all of that. So let me get these wires ran through the firewall into the cab, and then we're going to go over the next step to getting power to our leads, and then we'll be able to start getting the steps hooked up. So let me work on that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so just so you can see what I'm doing, I took the 2 wires that are coming off of my rocklight harness, the 2 black wires there, and then I took the 2 lead wires that's marked high and low, taped them together to my antenna right here, and what I did was I took the antenna from up under here and pushed my antenna through that grommet underneath the floor under there, and it popped out. I don't know if I can get you to see it, but literally right straight down there behind the battery. So it literally popped out right above the battery. So all I have to do now is pull my antenna through the firewall, and then we're going to work on mounting my rocklight switch to the dash, and then we're going to work on hooking up our lead wires. So let me start getting that prepared, and I'll be right back with an update. Okay, so over here on the driver's side here, once you take this little side panel off, very simple, it's just push pins, pop it out. Now I took down my lower dash panel here, again, just push pins. There was 2 little bolts on the bottom. And then I took my headlight switch off, again, push pins, pull it off, unplug your harness, and just get it out of the way. I like to open this up a little bit. Again, everything's very easy to take off. We're gonna have to get our hands in here to access this module right here. If you come over here, it's just held on by little clips on the back. So if you come over here with your hand from the outside, lift up, do a little wiggling, it pops up like that, and then you can move it out of the way. Then you can kind of pull it out here and have easier access to your wires. So now any 2-pin harness on here we could tap into, but I'm going to tap into this first harness right here. Now, right here where my finger's tapping, the wire that's closest to the middle of the harness is your pin 1. That is what we are going to tap in our high input wire, which for my harness here looks like it's white with like a red stripe. So I will be using the wire tap that comes with the Boost Auto wiring kit. Now the yellow wire that's closest to the outside of the harness over on this side over here where my thumb is, that's going to be our low input wire. So we are going to take our input wire marked low, which on mine looks like to be a yellow and orange stripe wire. We are going to tap that into the yellow wire right here that's closest to the outside of the harness. Once you tap in your signal wires there, then all I have to do is figure out where in my dash I'm going to put my rocklight button switch, drill a hole, put the switch in, hook up my 2 wire plugs that I have sitting right here to the back of the switch, put all this back together, and then we should be good to go. So let me tap into the module, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, so we're done with the tap. So this is basically what it's going to look like. You're going to use the Boost Auto of supplied taps, and you're going to tap into that pin 1, which is this yellow wire with the purple stripe, and then the wire right in front of it, the straight yellow wire that's closer to the outside of the harness. I tapped in using the Boost Auto tap right there for my low input wire. So that's basically all you have to do. So once you do that, all you have to do is take your harness, stick it back in, clip it on that metal side, and then you're done with that. Then I pulled my rocklight wires through the bottom over here. On the bottom of my panel here, I drilled a hole using a tapered drill bit like that so that I can incrementally drill a hole little by little until I can get my button to fit. So again, I just drilled it right through there, okay? Put my wires back in, and now I'm good to go. So now all I have to do is put this back in, clip it on, put my panels back in, get all this put back together, and then we're done. Now again, you don't have to take all of this apart. If you can access this part right here from just out here, then you don't have to worry about any of that. I like to take some of that apart so that I have more room to work with because I got big hands. Plus, I'm trying to film this, so I needed some different angles so that I can show you what we're doing. So now that I got that hooked up, I could just come back up to the front. Here's my rocklight wire harness right here. Take my white wires, okay, that came with this, run one down over here, connect it over here to that. Take the other one down on the other side, connect it to that. And then all I gotta do is start cleaning up my wires and then hooking up my power and grounds to the battery. And then we're pretty much good to start hooking up our steps to the motor and rear bracket, and then we should be good to go. So let me go ahead and clean up some of this, and I'll be right back with an update. Okay, so we went ahead and put all of our dash panels back together. I did pull a little bit of the excess cable for the rocklight switch and the lead wires underneath so that I could zip tie them up under the dash. Then I came up under the hood, started organizing some of my cables where I'm gonna run them, but I got everything kind of zip tied, organized. It's not fully done yet, but I wanted to get some stuff cleaned up a little bit. I got my white wire connected into the white lead wire off the headlight harness, got my fender liners back up in there, hooked up, good to go. So then at this point, I took my 3 power wires, connected them to the positive of the battery, took my 2 ground wires and connected them to the ground of the battery. So now at this point, we have power and we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and test the first motor on the driver's side. Works, shut it. 1, 2, 3. That works. Let's come to the passenger side. Same thing. Check it. Shut it. 1, 2, 3. We are good. So now that we have verified that all of our connections are good and we are all good to go, now we can start working on the actual steps. Now to do the steps, it's very simple and easy. If you flip it over onto the back, you'll have to find out which side has the plug harness, which on this particular one would be over here. So you want the power harness plug of your step to be closest to your front power module. So based on this step here, if I flipped it over to where the step plug is closest to that, you would see that my logo from this side would be backwards. So that tells me that this step goes to the driver's side. So let's walk it over here. And we are going to then lay it down face forward on the ground over here. Now what we need to do is come over to where we had our hardware. We're going to grab 4 bolts and 4 nuts. And then I'm just going to grab a little blue Loctite here. And then let's grab this. And some blue Loctite. And let's start working on our first step. So the first step is going to be very easy. What you need to do, take 4 of the little bolts. You're going to then slide them into the back channel here and slide into that channel. So let's go ahead and get all 4 in there. Sometimes you have to spin the bolt a little bit. So you just have to kind of stick it in there, spin it until it slides in. Then you're going to take 2 of the bolts, slide it towards the front to where the first motor bracket would be, and then slide this one towards the back. Now all we have to do, open the door, make sure both of our brackets are exposed out, take our step, flip it over, line up our bolts through the 2 holes, Add a little blue Loctite to the nuts, bolt them down from underneath, and don't bolt them down tight all the way, because once you get the step bolted on loosely, we are going to have to shut the door and let it retract and then make any adjustments forward or back so that we could get it aligned to where we like it. Once you have it aligned to where you like it, finish tightening down all your bolts. So let me go do that real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I got the step lined up how I like it, basically on this particular truck, I just lined up the front right here at the edge. Once you do that, go ahead and tighten down your 2 bolts under each step. Now, when you open it, it folds down just like that. Now at this point, the light is not hooked up yet. So let that retract. Okay, now we're gonna come underneath the front. Again, here's the front motor. Those 2 wires that came off the front over here, we're going to have to plug it in up here. So we're going to start with our 4-pin. Give it a little tug to make sure it's clicked in place, and it seems to be pretty tight. Okay, we're good there. Then take your 2-pin plug, slide that in. Make sure that's in place. Give it a little tug. If it doesn't pop out, that means it's plugged in all the way. Okay, we're good. Then they give you these little clips like this. All you have to do here is slide it over your wire, wherever you want to put it, just like that. Tuck it up into the bottom of the step. And just, there we go. Takes a little bit of pressure to push it in there in place, but now we have it plugged in, and now that wire is tucked into that channel. Then, if you come up over here, take this wire and pull it from the front and kind of like do a little tugging and pulling. Just be careful, but you could pull some of that wire through, just like that. It's not super tight, it's in a channel. You can pull that down, and then up here, there's a little screw. You can unscrew that clip and then pull some of your excess wire through, zip tie it all out of the way. And once you do that on both sides, you will be all done. So let me go ahead and finish up the passenger side, clean up all the cables, and then we'll wrap this up. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we're all done and we're all cleaned up. I got all of the wires zip tied out of the way and wire loomed and cleaned up. So we're good to go there. I did tuck a couple of the wires underneath this little shroud here and zip tied it along some of the cables along the front. Popped them out over here and zip tied them along the side. Have everything kind of grouped together and zip tied over here. So that's all looking good. Have my power wires ran over here. Ground wires ran over here. Have my module box zip tied up over here. Drilled a couple holes along the top panel here so I could zip tie my cord out of the way. Got all that done. So we're all cleaned up there. Underneath, I had to put some zip ties over here for the cables to keep them from falling out behind the wheel well there. Underneath, if we come over here, I have some of the wires. Tucked up top over there, zip tied out of the way so they're nice and clean. Nothing's hanging down. Come over here on the passenger side. Everything's cleaned up. Wheel well's all cleaned up. Everything's put back together. I have my cables coming down back here, zip tied, and then I have them zip tied underneath over here, out of the way, up top. Everything's zip tied and cleaned up and out of the way, so nothing is hanging out. Everything works, so if we open up the door, lights light up, steps fold down. A couple seconds, they'll fold back up. Light will shut off, okay? Come over onto the driver's side. Right there, good to go. Everything folds down, looks nice, really nice. These fit perfectly for this truck. These steps just look great. I like seeing a little gap in between. It just looks really good. Shut the door. Couple seconds, they'll fold up. There you go. So everything's good to go. We are now done. So what I'm gonna do next is wait till later on tonight when it gets dark out, and we're gonna come back and I'm gonna show you what these look like at night. So I'll be back in a little while. Okay, so it's nighttime. So again, this is a 2021 Ram 1500 with the Boost Auto M2 LumaSteps. Here's a button here. There you go. So obviously when you hit your unlock button, it's going to have the amber flashlights just like the rest of your truck does. Let's come over here and open up the front door. Now keep in mind, as soon as you open the door, the lights are going to light up. So let's go ahead and check that out. There you go. I mean, look how bright that is. I mean, it's literally glowing the whole driveway. I mean, those things are bright. Now let's go ahead and shut the door and I'll show you what they look like when they retract. There you go. Now, depending on whether or not you have your daytime running lights activated or not, because you could go in on the settings on your dash and turn your daytime running lights on or off. We typically keep ours turned off, but if you have them turned on, your light will stay lit as long as your daytime running lights are running. Now, let's go ahead and start the truck. I'm gonna roll down the window real quick. Now, if you turn the turn signals on right now, they're not going to work because they're in their puddle light mode. Now, the rest of your blinking lights will work like normal, but those are in the puddle light mode. But if you shut the door, let them retract, now they're in driving mode. Now hit your turn signal. There you go. That's what they look like with the sequential turn signals activated. Really bright, looks awesome. Now, before I turn the turn signals off, I just want to mention these are also the switchback lighting. So as soon as I turn those turn signals off, that light is going to go immediately back to bright white. Let me try that. There you go. So again, that's the driver's side there. Let's come over here and I'll show you the passenger side real quick. Same thing. Lit up. Let me show you that. I'll come here and open up the door. Okay. Shows the Boost Auto label there. Again, I have the black and gray triangular pad design. Looks real good. Folds up really well. Now, the next thing I want to show you real quick is the rock light function. Now, I have the rock light button down here on the dash, but let's go ahead and shut the door. Let them retract. Okay, now they're turned off. Now, if I open the door, they're going to light up. But if you remember, the rock light function overrides everything because it's coming straight from the battery. So I'll just come over here and reach through the window. Let me grab my rock light button here. There you go. So again, the rock light button overrides everything and turns them on bright white. Now, let me turn the turn signals on. So right now, the turn signals are on, but let me hit the rock light switch. The rock light switch overrides the turn signals and makes them bright white again. So again, the rock light switch is only there to override all functions and give these steps direct power to turn the white light on. Okay, so right there is the Boost Auto M2 LumaSteps installed on a 2021 Ram 1500. And as you can see, they function great. The lights are very bright. They look awesome. I really like the white LED running light. I like the switchback lighting so that it goes from the amber turn signals back to the white running light. I really like the look of the sequential turn signal function where the amber lights are kind of flashing. It just really makes your truck more visible, and when you're driving at night, that's always a safer thing. So again, my overall thoughts on the Boost Auto M2 LumaSteps, I definitely give them a thumbs up and give them a go. They're pretty easy to install, they function great, they look great, they make your truck more visible, and I really just think they make your truck look really cool having that white LED light on. Now, you can get these in an amber daytime running light, so you don't have to get them in just white. So if any of you out there are looking for power steps for your truck with some really cool illumination features, I highly recommend checking out the Boost Auto M2 LumaSteps. Okay, everybody, so there you go. So we went ahead and we installed the Boost Auto M2 LumaSteps on this 2021 Ram 1500. And as you can see, they look awesome. I really like how they function. They come down low enough to make getting in and out of the truck very easy. The added step pad with the gray and black triangular design looks really cool. You can actually get that in different designs and different colors. The white LED running lights look awesome. The amber sequential turn signals look awesome. It's just a high quality power step with some really awesome technology built into the step to give you some really cool illumination features. So if any of you out there are looking for some high quality power steps with illumination features, I definitely recommend checking out the Boost Auto M2 LumaSteps. But that's going to be it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments section and I'll get back to you when I can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.